I want you to enjoy your first triathlon. If you watch this video, you will increase your chances of doing so. I've got 9 essential tips that are going to help you survive and hopefully thrive at your first event. Tip 1, cover the distance. Now, I'm not saying you've got to go out and do your full triathlon distance in one go in training. However, you do need to be comfortable being able to do the swim, the bike and the run within a training session. Now, that doesn't mean you've got to do that full block in a go, but you can break it down. So say, for example, you've got a 10K run in an Olympic distance triathlon. You could do that as 5 lots of 2 kilometers. But if it helps with your confidence, feel free to cover the full distance of each discipline on their own. However, if you're following a structured training plan, you've stuck to it, then you're going to be ready anyway. Tip 2, practice your transitions. Now, even though we said you don't want to do all of your sports back to back, you do, however, need to practice those connections between each one. These are known as transitions. So you've got T1, or transition 1, which is the swim to the bike, and then T2, which is the bike to the run. Now, there's a lot to remember on race day, and there's a few rules to be on top of. So the more you've practiced these, the smoother and less stressful it will be on race day. If you want some specific tips on T1 and T2, we have videos that stand alone for those topics, so I'd suggest checking those out. Tip 3, learn the course. It might sound obvious, but you'll be amazed at how many people rock up to a race and they get their self bogged down with registering, racking their bikes, sorting out their kit, etc. And they forget to actually take a breath and look at where they're going to be going. So why not get ahead of the game and study the map before you even get to your race? So you can have a look at the main routes, any points that might be of interest or you might need to really remember. And then at least you've got that already in your head when you get there. And then once you arrive, if you've got time, if you arrive maybe the night before, you can maybe even drive part of the course or some of it. If it's small loops, you can potentially cycle one of those loops. But at the least, even if you can't do any of that, then make sure you walk through to the transitions, you know where the mount and the dismount lines are, and you know what the signs are that you're looking for. Because yes, there'll be people out ahead of you most probably, but don't rely on them. And I think it goes back to the earlier point that the more prepared you are ahead of the race, the more relaxed, the more time you've got, the more you're just going to enjoy that overall race experience. Tip 4, don't rush. Now, after our earlier points, it goes without saying that you want to allow plenty of time. Think about where the parking is. It's often a little bit of a walk. Queuing for registration, for bike check-in. The queue for the luge, that's one that often catches people out. Time to do your setup. Time to go and check out the actual course and where you're heading. It adds up, so I would suggest that work out all of that, then add an extra 30 minutes of safety time, and you should be just about right. Tip 5, try nothing new on race day. As I expect, you're starting to realise that there is a lot of kit that comes with triathloning. You might be buying some of it new, some secondhand, or maybe even borrowing some bits of kit. It doesn't matter where you source it from, just make sure that you have tried it all in training. Now, I'm not saying that you need to wear your tri-suit to every single session from now on. In fact, please don't. But just make sure you've put it through its paces so you know that it fits, and if there's any areas that are maybe a little bit uncomfortable, they might need a little bit of extra lube. And then remember to go through every single piece of kit and be happy with it, from your goggles to your tri-suit, even your socks. The more comfortable you are on race day, the happier you'll be and just a better experience you have. There's nothing worse than having to adjust kit as you're going or feel a blister that might be starting to develop. Tip 6, lube is your friend. It's always a good idea to apply lubrication liberally. Now, if you know that there's certain points from testing your kit in training, you might know where you want to play a little bit more. But that said, you still want to be generous with this application. And if you're new to triathlon, you might be saying, what on earth do I need this for? If you've done running races or maybe in training, you've had no issues at all. But trust me, when it comes to doing swim, bike and run back to back, you've got wet kit on, you're going to be spending a long time in it. There'll be points that you might not expect. For example, when it comes to a sea swim, if you're wearing a wetsuit, the salt in the sea will just add that little bit of extra friction. You might want to cover the back of your neck and then look at any points in your joints. So armpits, maybe the backs of your knees, and anywhere where there's seams in your tri-suit, because that's just a potential rub point. Also at the ends of the legs, end of the arms, or any point where your suit finishes. And if you want to take it one step further, you can also apply a bit of lubrication around your wrists and your ankles. That will just help with removing your wetsuit that much more easily. If you're doing a sprint triathlon, then you can easily get away without needing to top up. any fuel. But if you feel like you get an added boost from taking on some during the bike and the run, then just make sure that you practice with it in training, but also you have a plan of what you want to take and when. And obviously this becomes far more important as you move up the distances, and then you really will need to make sure that you've practiced it. Also worth noting that many events will provide nutrition on the course. However, if you're planning to use that nutrition, try and test with that actual nutrition beforehand, because your stomach is already going to be under stress as it is. You don't want to add extra stress by trying something new. Plus, it could be a bit of an assault on the taste buds when you don't want it. Tip 8, have fun. This one might not be scientific advice, but I'd still say it's just as important. So set yourself up to go out and have a good time. I mean, after all, that is why we do this sport. If you've got some friends to enter the race and do it with you, great. If not, then bring friends and family along. And just remember to keep a smile on your face. Things will go wrong. It's your first triathlon. That's how we learn, by making mistakes. But if you do it all with a big smile, you'll get so much more out of it. Tip 9, knowledge is power. Now, we've obviously covered a lot in a very short space of time, so I would recommend taking a bit of extra time to just go away and do some general research on triathlon, on any tips that are out there. And if you can, speak to people that have maybe quite recently done their first triathlon, because they will remember all the things that they wish they'd known and things that they learned on the way. And the more that you've got behind you, then the more fun you're going to have on race day. And that just leads me to say, good luck. Go out there, have fun, and I reckon you'll love it and you'll be back for plenty of more triathlons. But remember, GTN is here to support you. We've got loads of resource. If you do have any questions, leave them in the comments section below.